Welcome to InTouch, dedicated to real estate professionals worldwide. We're here to educate you, entertain you, and empower you in all facets of real estate. Are you ready for the latest news, trends, and market updates? Then it's time to get in touch. Welcome to the show. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Gary Giffen. We have an exciting show. Get ready. And before we start, we're going to pause for a little station identification, a little real estate agent comic relief. Florida call coming through, and that's okay. That's Surfer Joe. Surfer Joe, how are you? Good. What are you looking for? Beach property. Close to the beach so you get a good break. Yeah, I got one for you. The only thing is the property that I have has no roof. Last storm went through, pulled the roof off, but for $50K, you put on a new roof, it'll be just good as new. Yeah. I know you're gonna love it down there. Yeah, but huge mosquitoes. They got these things called water bugs. I think they're roaches. A great place to live. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna go ahead and send you over to Kathy right now. You good with that? Thank you. Looks like we're gonna take the next caller. What are you looking for? Oh, you're in California. You want to get out of California? High taxes here, right? Yeah. Most of my clients are leaving. That's fantastic. Which direction you going? East? Yeah, far east. Well, I've got all sorts of good properties in our eastern states. You'll love it. I actually got one fixer right now. Looks like it's $100K. It's on 20 acres. This one looks like you're going to like it because it's got black mold, which is good, and most of the roof is in good condition. It's got a couple leaks, but the insurance on this one, I think you're going to like that. The insurance is running about $100K per year. Is that something you'd like? Oh, you would? Okay, yeah, anything to get out of California. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to send you over to Byron. He's going to take care of you today. Thanks. Hey, Jane, nice to meet you. Thanks for calling in. What are you looking for? Oh, you're already pre-approved? Oh, you're my favorite client already. What's your interest rate on that? I know that they've been going up a little bit. 14%? Yeah, that's a great interest rate. Yeah, you probably refi out of that, maybe get it down to 10%, right? With about 6 months. Yeah, that's going to be good. All right, so and you're good for up to 600K. That's a perfect price point. And not a lot of inventory, but I can certainly take a look at that. And 600K. So Jane, what's your payment on that? Oh, holy cow, that's a lot of money. You sure you can afford that? Oh yeah. You think today's a good time to buy? Oh, absolutely, it's a good time to buy. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you need a house. We're going to get you into a house, and that at that interest rate, it's worth it. Yeah. Hey Jane, just working some numbers on my calculator. It looks like our payment on that's going to be 23K, which is outstanding, right? And then you said that you're only going to be in it for a couple years, so we'll probably turn you over to our property management company. They can get $2,500 a month on that, which is outstanding, right? $2,500 a month. So what does that put us? Negative? Oh, my calculator doesn't even go backwards, but yeah, that's going to be a lot of money in the hole. You're going to enjoy that. That's a great investment. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing generosity, one of my favorite subjects. I hope to inspire all of you to consider being a more generous individual on a daily basis. When you bring up the word generosity, people immediately think about their pocketbook, and it can strike a chord in their heart whether or not they're willing to share or they have resources to share at this current season in their life. But today we're going to be talking about 7 different ways to be generous. Today you're going to hear from a friend of mine, Brad Formsma. He is somebody that has inspired so many people to live everyday generosity. He's written books. He frequently speaks. He has a wonderful podcast called The Wow Factor, WOW, which stands for Words of Wisdom, that you could tune into, where he interviews people who have had great success, who are very generous. So let's hear from Brad how to live out our journey of generosity.
I was recently in an airport bathroom. How many of you have been in an airport bathroom recently? Have you ever been in a clean one? Well, I happened in this unbelievably clean bathroom airport. And as I was washing my hands, I noticed out of the corner of my eye there was a a man there who was perfectly dressed in his uniform. His cart was very organized, and this bathroom was the cleanest bathroom I'd ever seen. And I got this nudge, like, say something kind to him, do something for him, be generous with your words. And then I thought, no, why would I want to talk to the guy cleaning the bathroom? You ever get that feeling deep down inside? It's the nudge that I should just do something. But then, as my friend Claire, who wrote the book, The 10-Second Rule, says, the 10-second rule kicks in. And by the time you get to about 9 or 10 seconds, you go, no, I'm going to deny that. And that's exactly what I did. Only to take a few more steps to catch up to my wife at a Starbucks, and the nudge came back. And it came back stronger. You ever have that where you're like, I denied it, and then there it is again? Well, that's in part because we were designed to give and be generous, but I then followed the nudge. I even write about this in my first book, I Like Giving, the nudge, follow it. And so I went back and I said, sir, excuse me, I want to thank you. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I want to thank you for making that airport bathroom so clean. I don't have that very often, and it's really nice. And I reached out my hand, and he reached out his, and he buried my hand in his, and he said, I'm Conrad. And I said, I'm Brad. And I noticed that the name patch on his shirt was blank. And I said, Conrad, I want you to know something. If you work for me, your name would be on your shirt. I think you're a good man. You deserve to have your name on the shirt. And this massive tear wells up in the corner of his eye, and I watch it begin to roll down his cheek. And as I walked away, I caught up with my wife at the Starbucks, and she said, what happened to you? You're glowing. I said, I just went to the bathroom. I said, I just met Conrad. Who's Conrad? I said, well, let me just sit in this a moment. You see, what happened there is this truth that it is better to give than receive. I thought I was going to be giving something, and I did to Conrad that day, a generous word, but I also received something so much more. It changes when we're generous, the giver, the receiver, and the observer. This is kind of how God made us, whether you believe in him or not. This is just the psychological, physiological things that happen. So you can test this out. So here's how I tested this out. So it was right after Super Bowl, and it was a Monday morning, obviously. I put my car in reverse. Anybody ever hear that sound? And a kind of a hush falls over the crowd because you know it's a flat tire, but then you kind of get excited if you're optimistic like me, who thinks when I'm dead I'm still alive. I'm going to think, oh, this is great because now I can call AAA. I've been paying those guys for years. They're waiting for my call. 2 hours in, I haven't gotten my coffee yet, and I'm watching my whole day evaporate. And finally the guy comes and he gasses or airs up the tire and he says, quick, hurry to the closest store. I can't repair it. And so I do just that, and I pull in, and out comes Tom. Tom goes, I'll take care of it, no problem. And I said, I got to go right across the parking lot to that Starbucks in the pavilions. You already know where this is headed a little bit. You know, you ever get that feeling like, ooh, I need a Starbucks, but it's in the grocery store, so it could be a jump ball. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I go there, and I happen to get in line at the grumpiest, slowest Starbucks barista in all of the world. And so by the time I get up to her, I can tell her team must have lost, right? And so I said, I just want a regular cup of coffee. And then I turned behind me. Tom's behind me. He's like, I got the guys working on it. So I said, Tom, what are we having today? He goes, getting the English muffin, getting a grande coffee. So I turned back around and I leaned forward. I said, ma'am, come here. I need English muffin, coffee. Why didn't you tell me that earlier? I didn't know I was going to need it. It's for the guy behind me. And that was the moment. A crack. I cracked it. Little smile. Oh. Why? Because her body started producing oxytocin and dopamine, and she's screwed. Is that okay to say that? It just happens. Remember? The giver, the receiver, of the observer. By the time I got my coffee and paid for his less than $10, and I hit the door, she had a full smile, and she couldn't wait to tell him what had happened. But I would submit to you something greater happened that day, because had I not moved from feeling sorry for myself and the flat tire to an act of generosity that we could all do, it completely shifted the rest of my day, and I began to just be filled up with, hey, you know, it's not all about me. We'll get through this. You know what's interesting? Had that event not happened, all day I would have carried that grumpy, not so happy, pissy mood with me. And newsflash, throughout the day, maybe some of you do this, you're in a bad mood and you think nobody knows. You ever have one of those? I love those days. I come home and my wife's like, well, let's try to come back in again. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm, really? Oh, yeah, you got it all over here. No. We wear this on us. Giving is the fastest way out of it. Now, I started to pick on Gary and his third trip for bacon. And we're going to be okay, because I like Gary, because Gary's done two things, and he doesn't even know this. Gary, it's going to be clean. We're all good, buddy. On top of the fact I want to be generous with my words and compliment the tie, you were back there. I saw you give somebody else a cup of coffee before you got it. I watched it. You said, no, here, go. And of course, I'm behind you going, man, I hope he gives me a cup of coffee too. But you just didn't see me, so we're good. But then I noticed that you must be a leader, you put on your wrist the 7 Ways of Living Generously bracelet that all of you have at your table. And I'm going to briefly describe those, because let me just ask a question. When you hear the word giving or generosity, thanks. Somebody's going to lead each table and pass it out. Elvis, you might pass them around your table, whatever. But the whole idea is, when you hear the word giving or generosity, what comes to mind? Can we give me a word? Kindness. Okay. What else? Courtesy. Okay. Well, you guys are really sharp. I mean, you're all wanting to play. The 7 words are on the bracelet, but we can just keep going. Okay. Oh my word, newsflash. Buddy, can you help me? That box in the back? This table doesn't have, we'll get it. We got it. Whoever doesn't have a bracelet, we had a little, okay. So, compassion. Let's go to the 7 on the wristband. Let's try that. Time, money, right? So what I'm trying to have you see, and we'll unpack this more, is that generosity goes way beyond, but includes money. I think we live in a society that, generally speaking, we hear giving or generosity, we think money. And yet I read, I like to say, as my friend Admiral Vern Clark, who is Chief of Naval Operations over the entire Navy, he said, the good book talks about being generous on every occasion. And what I like about that is it kind of is an example of how we can be generous daily, weekly, monthly in these different ways. So let me just unpack the 7 briefly for you. Number 1, generosity of thoughts. What is it like when we're generous with our thoughts to ourselves and others? I love this thing that says, love your neighbor as yourself. And sometimes I'm like, man, I kind of feel sorry for my neighbor with all my negative self-talk, So what do you think about? Do you give the benefit of the doubt? Do you think positive, generous thoughts of others? I can promise you this morning, I hope that door's not, is that door closed? When I came into this establishment and I know the owner, I went to the front desk and I said, hey, I need a cart to bring the books in. And without hesitation, we don't have a cart. I had a decision. My thoughts weren't so generous. Are you freaking kidding me? We're at a car dealership. There's got to be a parts cart somewhere. But immediately, okay. Now, what's cool is I was able to go to the parts department and the dude was like, I'm all in, I just need your driver's license and your credit card, and I gave him my whole wallet. It was just a fun exchange. But the whole thing is, we have these moments every time we turn around to check our thinker, and are we gonna, I gotta give that lady the benefit of the doubt. Why? I don't want it to affect me and my mindset, but the other thing is I have no idea what's going on in her world today. She could have a kid in the hospital, somebody puking at home, I don't know. Generous thoughts towards ourselves and others. And some of that comes from what we take into our thinker. One of my mentors says the world is, really about 6 inches wide and 4 pounds. Your brain. What are we putting in? And this will sound very promotional, but I don't even make money off it, so I'm going to go for it. We started the WOW Factor, which stands for Words of Wisdom from Extraordinary Leaders. It's every Wednesday a podcast, now a top 1% leadership podcast, but it's all about stories of people who are good-hearted, who give and serve and live differently. We've had over 250 of them now. And what I learn is that as I get around good information, good things come out. I think it's fair to say that, as my pastor used to say, CNN stands for constantly negative news. Not far off, right? So you get to think about what you put into your brain. Number 2, generosity of words. We know what it's like to build somebody up, right? There's power in our tongue to be affirming and to be specific. Man, I can tell you the last time somebody wasn't generous with their words, and I can tell you about it, and it will feel like it was yesterday, and it might have been 5, 10, 20 years ago. But boy, can we tell when somebody is specific, and they affirm us, and they, the simplest things. I fully meant 100% with Gary's generosity of giving that lady the coffee. It's simple. That didn't cost me anything. I got to do it. We didn't make that up. I don't even know Gary. In fact, I'm like, how can I figure out his name without it being weird? No name tag. You're kind of looking at him. Hey, I'm Gary. Perfect. Thanks, bro. You're playing along perfect. Generosity of money. We know what that's like. When I give money, that's kind of like giving my life away because I gave part of my life to get it. You get to decide the amount. I'm not that, but I know there are times that when we give money, because I didn't tell you this, but there was a $20 handshake to Conrad when it was all done. Sometimes it's fun to combine the 7 ways. Generosity of influence. Wow. That's a powerful one when we want to help other people get to where they want to go, and that's a mindset shift because, sometimes you think scarcity or you think, oh, things are a little tight. I can't help somebody else, but there's something powerful when we help other people get to where they need to go. And you get to decide on what that would be. I'll never forget the time that I got a call from Dave Ramsey, and he said, I want you to come down here and talk about generosity on my radio program. And we did that, and I thought, well, that's really a lot of generous influence because he didn't give me any money, but we got to talk to 13 million people about the generous life. And we all have different levels of what that would be. Generosity of time. Wow. The great equalizer, isn't it? 168 hours in the week. We all get the same slice. I might not get invited back for this, but I want to tell it, so I'm gonna. I was reading one time about this lady who was explaining her use of time and making decisions on what she said yes to. And she said, look, it's kind of like this. There's no hell no's and there's no hell yeses, and there's she said, see, I got it wrong. I already started with the, she said, this is so profound, I messed it up. She said, there's no hell maybes. It's yes or it's no. And we live in a world where we often say yes. And some of you are going to go leave here, and I'm going to challenge you to look at your 168-hour dance card, and there's some things that you need to stop doing so you can have margin to be able to do what you're really good at and what you're really called to. Because here's what's interesting. Over time, things pile on, right? How many times do you realize, God, I've just gotten busier and busier. Why is that? It's because you haven't said no very well. So some of you, I would just encourage you to say, why am I doing what I'm doing and wanting a different result if I'm not willing to open up margin and change? So generosity of time. And then that frees you up to volunteer, to do other things. You get to pick what that is. And time audits are brutal. I mean, it's the most painful thing. If you just did 1 week of every 15 minutes how you spend your time, oh my word, our Insta-reel addictions and everything else, it's quite alarming. But at least you know how you're giving it and using the time. Number 6, generosity of attention. Oh, I wish I would have left this one out of the 7 ways. This is brutal, right? I carry this 6 ounces of glass, plastic, and technology. It is the anti-attention device. About 4 in the morning, I was rolling over what I was going to say today, and I had visions in my dream that I just threw my phone, and it landed nicely in the carpet. Now I'm looking down at the floor and saying, that dream wasn't quite accurate. That would be bad to throw that. But how many of you have been out on a date or in a restaurant and noticed the number of people on their devices? So, genius guy, rookie mistake. I'm out for a date with my wife, and I said, can you believe all these people on their phones? She's like, yeah, like you. I'm like, oh, hello, that was really good. I'm noticing everybody. Yeah. And then what did I do? I tried to sell my way out of it. You guys are in sales, so I'm like, oh, but she's like, no, you've checked your phone 4 times. 4 glances. This is a problem. I picked up my daughter the other day from school, and she was on the way home, and she's just yakking away. And I've got 2 older boys, and then my 15-year-old daughter. And I didn't realize that 15-year-old girls had drama. Didn't know it. She's yakking away about all her problems and everything, and I got my little, 1-inch white ear things in because I might get a call, don't want to miss anything. And we pull in the driveway, and she goes, Dad. The third dad, you don't want to hear it? You're not here. And again, we're all selling something. I guess I'm selling generosity. I tell her how I needed to be. That dinner, it was cold. Food was hot. Temperature in the room, cold. About 8 o'clock, I got that loving tap on the shoulder. I would say that would probably be the Lord. This would be a good time to go get right with your daughter. Oh, that's a long, long walk down a hallway in a house that's not that big. Man, those are hard things. And you knock on the door and you own it. And you make it right and you apologize. Those are painful moments. And I wish those were only 1 or 2 that I could tell you about. It's a constant reminder for me. What is it like to be fully present with someone in this world of distractions? And we know what it feels like when somebody's fully present. And we also know when we're at a party and someone keeps looking over their shoulder to go see somebody else, or they get to go. We know the power of what it feels like to be receiving generous attention, to be fully present. It's powerful. Something to work on. And then number 7, real quick, generosity of belongings. Boy, we all have things that we can share. Again, I'm not about being prescriptive, but we know what that's like when we get a knock on the door and it's the neighbor and they're like, hey, I'm making chocolate chip cookies, short 2 eggs, could I? And you kind of skip to the fridge because you think you might get a cookie or 2 out of the deal. You do. I know you. But the next week, that knocks back there. And, hey, I notice you got a new car and you're selling your other one. Mine's going to be in the shop for a week. Could I use your extra car while I'm... What? Finally? I mean, but the room was quiet even for a moment, wasn't it? It's like we all have these different standards of what we would share. You get to decide, but there's something sometimes that, I read about this idea when we're willing to share. Sometimes it's just a check in the heart. Am I willing to share what I have? You get to pick. We see that as another one of the 7 ways.